is buying record numbers of American-made parts, opening another door of opportunity. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Wow, what a brain! No, I'm not talking about the class valedictorian or the scarecrow after he reached Oz. This brain's inside your car. When I come back, I'll tell you all about it.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Einstein's got nothing on your car's ECM, or electronic control module. Like human brains, ECMs gather data from the environment and make adjustments to optimize performance. For example, this onboard computer adapts fuel delivery, seat positions, cabin temperature, braking, and emissions. It also alerts you to potential problems and notifies you for service. Like all brains, your ECM's sensitive to environmental abuse. So follow the scarecrow's lead. Take your ECM for scheduled service to the Oz service center of your choice. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Deadhead stickers on your Cadillac, flower power on your VW, Dole decals on your pickup. If you're ready for a bare bumper, I'll tell you how to strip them, and I'm not teasing.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Strip teases are usually X-rated, but here's one the whole family can enjoy: removing old decals from your bumper. First, spray them with an aerosol lubricant, then gently rub with your finger to release. If, like some politicians, they won't budge, turn up the heat. With a hairdryer, that is. Warming will help soften the adhesive. Sticker still sticking? On warm, lubricated bumpers, use a plastic spatula to carefully pry decal. Now you're ready for a new bumper message. My favorite? Car Clinic listeners rule! I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us!
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad you tuned in every Saturday from 10 till noon. I'm usually here. Where else would I be? Today, we have the honor of having Jonathan Sloan, who is our jack of all trades here, operating the board. Fabio is away on another assignment. And, of course, Hannah will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. And also, we're going to be hearing from our friends in Kearney, Nebraska. Hey, GFW, yeah. KGFW. It's the K and the W and the Mississippi River, east and west. There's a story behind it. There's a story behind everything. And with the weather, like 2 weeks ago in Kearney, I'm really proud of all the folks behind the scenes that pulled that together. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this morning by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Be sure to prepare for your summer road trips. Now, folks, you got to do this before you head out. You visit O'Reilly Auto Parts, and simple preventive maintenance before you hit the road will ensure a safe journey during the summer months ahead and keep you on the road versus on the side of the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better parts, better place, better parts, better prices every day. I get it right. I'll take your calls when I come back, and we'll hear from Kearney. If you're working on a repair project around the house or in a garage, forget about ordinary glue. I use JB Weld epoxy products at home, here in my shop, and also in our Car Clinic studio. JB Weld is the brand pros and DIYers have trusted for more than 50 years. JB Weld, world's strongest bond. Pick up your JB Weld at any Home Depot, Lowe's, AutoZone, Walmart, Amazon, and our partner, O'Reilly Auto Parts. For more details, log on to jbweld.com. All batteries are not created equally. Don't trust just any battery for your vehicle. An Optima battery has up to 3 times the life of a traditional flooded battery. Optima batteries are constructed with 99.99% pure lead, meaning additional power, quicker recharging, and corrosion resistance. Additionally, each Optima AGM battery is maintenance-free and completely sealed, preventing acid spills. Optima batteries, the ultimate power source. Learn more at OptimaBatteries.com. In the service bay this week, a local handyman 16 Toyota Tacoma. He noted his vehicle was making a rattling sound from the engine when he started it cold. The sound also would sometimes happen when the engine was warm. After checking the engine oil level, we noticed the truck recently had an oil and filter change. So we installed a mechanical oil pressure gauge to verify that we had the proper readings. The oil pressure was within specifications, but a little erratic. The last service facility used a suspect filter, so we installed a new Omnicraft oil filter with the correct anti-drainback valve and quality filter media. Turns out this solved the problem. No more noise at startup. Folks, with today's complex vehicles, not every part works or works well. Quality, fit, and function is a must in my shop. Approved and backed by Ford Motor Company for most non-Ford and non-Lincoln vehicles, Omnicraft quality filters will help ensure vehicle reliability and longevity. Learn more about Omnicraft quality filters and other Omnicraft parts at OmnicraftAutoparts.com. Omnicraft Auto Parts, backed by Ford.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Glow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're just now getting started, so we've got an hour together, folks. Right along with me, and we'll enjoy the morning. Just I started to say the two of us, but that's right, two at a time. You and me on the telephone. Although we may hear from a couple of gentlemen from Kearney, Nebraska. Brad Kernick, of course, is calling in and giving us a report on Cruise Night Week in Kearney, Nebraska. And so we're going to go right directly to Brad. I understand there in Kearney that for the last week or so it's been flooded. But how's it going, Brad? So let's put him on the air then. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning,
Welcome.
Bobby.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. Jerry Erickson and I are here. God has smiled on us, and it's a cool morning. Just a small breeze, and our 100-year flood is subsiding, so we're just moving ahead.
Well, to that end, and I know what a 100-year flood is. I've been through one of those in my life, and for those of you who do not know, folks, of all of the times that it rains, the severe rain or the drizzle or what have you, supposedly, and the way that the climate is arranged, and those are in the know, talk about a flood that really happens about once every 100 years. And so a couple of weeks ago, Kearney, Nebraska suffered a 100-year flood. So before we get into the cruise night, and we want to hear all about that, Brad, but what was it like, and how far did the water come up? How many homes damaged, and how was the downtown? Is the downtown a lower area where stores damaged and water everywhere? Tell us about that.
Well, Bobby, it was really unusual. The flood actually, the river, the Platte River runs south of Kearney, and it flooded, and then the Turkey Creek flooded, and so the south end of town is what really took the brunt of it. It came in maybe a third or a fourth of the way into town.
Wow.
So that's our hotel district down in that area, and they're the ones that took the brunt of it, and they're still digging out and repairing and trying to mitigate the flood damage. So, the bottom line is we are roughly at a third of the hotel rooms available that we normally have. And so we know that that's going to impact our out-of-state and out-of-town visitors because there just aren't enough hotel rooms for them. But we decided we're going ahead, and we are. And many of our events have had record numbers so far. So we're pleased and excited. We feel that this might be a little bit therapeutic, too. If you've been pulling water-sogged carpet out of your basement and cutting water-sogged sheetrock out, you need a breather. And we think that that's what a lot of people will be doing, and just saying, you know what, let's just take an hour or two or three off and go have a little fun. And I'm confident that people will do that.
Well, having been through a 100-year flood, I concur. I think that's a very therapeutic, and it's a great opportunity to say, you know what, let's leave this soggy mess. It'll be here when we get back, that unfortunately. So let's shift gears now. And what's the attendance? I mean, has this dampened? Oh gosh, I'm sorry, no pun intended. Has it? You know,
You've been thinking for a week on that one.
no, really, it just popped out. You know, the brain is a terrible thing to waste. What's it? What really has it slowed the attendance or had any effect on the attendance? I know that if there's a lack of hotel rooms, that's always a challenge. But somehow or other, and I know we're going to get into cars, folks, but this is so important, and it's because it's life. Somehow or other, we Americans. And the freedom that we enjoy, and I think of freedom, I think of cars, and to get in your car and go where you want to go, state to state, without all you have to do is follow the speed limit, virtually, and you can go corner of the United States to corner, north, east, south, and west, without anybody bothering you or having to ask permission. So that's and I'm not waving. I guess I am waving the flag because I just really thought about that, but. Has it affected, in I know a positive way, the local folks there, and what about the crowd? What's it like today?
It looks like it's going to be records again, Bobby.
Jeez.
We've had 115-degree heat indexes here for the last 3 days, and this morning it's only about 75 this morning, and like Brad said, a light breeze. But it looks to me like our numbers are going to be up from what I'm seeing already this morning, Bobby.
Well, what would those numbers be? I know that, as I remember, 600 cars last year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We short a little. Last year was a shorter year. Last year, if I remember right, we were just short of 500. I think we're going to beat 500 today, Bobby, the way it looks coming in, where they're coming in. And we've got some really, really nice cars. I helped a gentleman this morning park a semi and a Mustang and a Ford diesel pickup, all painted yellow. Man, down there, if you got a camera, you like yellow, you can take an hour's worth of pictures just in yellow paint.
I can just see it now. So let me ask a question. Did he bring his cars in the semi, or how did that? The semi's not in the show, is it?
Yes, sir, it is. He bobtailed her in. Everybody's painted the same color except his Harley. His Harley Davidson is a little bit darker yellow than the rest of it, but the rest of it I think all come out of the same can.
I wonder what color his dog is. Old Yeller. Brad will shoot me for that too. No pun intended.
You're on fire, Bobby.
Oh, I know. So there'll be food. Tell us about the food and the fun and the games and the people and what's it like. And do people bring their chairs like in a normal car show out on the greens somewhere in downtown and just like hang out and show their favorites?
Absolutely, hang out. Everybody's got chairs, and then the pedestrian traffic will never stop all day long, Bobby. It started already an hour ago. The people coming looking at the cars, that pedestrian traffic does not stop. But the ice cream trolley just went by. My favorite ice cream truck just went by, going through the food court. There's barbecue, everything in the food court, and waffles or pretzels, cooked pretzels or whatever they are.
Well, and our food court this year, Bobby, is off the charts good. We've been building that up for several years, and I think this will be one of our best years, if not the best year. So our spectators will be able to participate in whatever kind of food they want. And we have a nice big tent set up down there with tables and chairs where they can sit down and relax and have a bite to eat.
Well, what is it about an event, whether it's the fair or a car show or some outdoor event that, I mean, what is it that makes people hungry? I mean, now that's a story. There's a story behind that as well.
I think it's just part of what people feel in the summer. They just want to eat the munchies, and they'll work back on the diet come Monday. But right now, they're just going to have fun and eat what sounds good.
And you don't have to cook it at home. Mom don't have to cook today. We're eating out at the car show.
So I can't help but ask, what's the tell us about the oldest car. And we have a break coming up, but you know what, guys? I'm going to ask you to hold through the break, only because, and folks, for those of you who just tuned in, we're talking with Jerry Erickson and Brad Kernick from Kearney, Nebraska, KGFW, our longtime affiliate there for years and years and years. I've been there. Also, that's our friends from Kappa Ethanol, and there are a lot of corn. And also, I want to know about the corn crops and how did this weather affect, if it did affect the corn crops there as well.
The corn crops, we ain't going to be able to know until harvest time, Bobby, but the corn caught up. Yeah, it was stunted back. The farmers could not get it planted on time, but they finally got it planted and it finally started growing. But there's a break right about in through here where we're at. West of it, the guys were pretty much on time, but east of here, they're all behind.
Wow. So what plans? And again, as I said in a short, and I'll you'll hear the music come up, Brad and Jerry, when Jonathan brings the music up. So we'll go to a hard break and then we'll come back. But when we do come back, and I want to keep you gentlemen a little while longer, I want to hear about the fun things that are going on, what the kids can do, and then I want to hear about the oldest and the newest car, because I presume that the OEMs, the dealerships, bring out new cars, or if they're allowed or not. So there's our break coming up. So when we come back, I want to know about the old cars, the new cars, the oldest car, and then where the farthest driver's from. Don't go away, folks. If you're working on a repair project around the house or in a garage, forget about ordinary glue. I use JB Weld epoxy products at home, here in my shop, and also in our car clinic studio. JB Weld is the brand pros and DIYers have trusted for more than 50 years. JB Weld, world's strongest bond. Pick up your JB Weld at any Home Depot, Lowe's, AutoZone, Walmart, Amazon, and our partner, O'Reilly Auto Parts. For more details, log on to jbweld.com. Repairing a coolant leak can be costly, and it typically happens to older vehicles that may not be worth the expensive fix. K-Seal is an alternative, a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. K-Seal's available at nationwide parts stores like O'Reilly Auto Parts. Learn more at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 2012 Jeep Liberty came in the shop with an oil leak, a horn that sometimes blew in the middle of the night, and a strange creaking noise driving away in the mornings. After multiple road tests and inspections, we determined the Jeep needed an oil pan gasket and left front CV axle assembly. We discussed the cost and options with the owner, then called our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional for new parts. It was strange this car's axle made noise when it was cold. Something most often would be an exhaust leak or motor mount creak. A new oil pan gasket and axle assembly later, and no more leaks or axle noise. Vehicle quiet, owner back on the road. Another great reason why our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, if we could only catch that horn. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hung. Guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Folks, welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with two gentlemen in Kearney, Nebraska, Brad Kernick and also Jerry Erickson. This is Cruise Night Week. And, a car show normally would be like a Saturday or a Sunday. And I think this event started out that way. Brad, you can correct me if I'm wrong or update, but I believe now that the plan and the program was over the last several years, and I don't know how many years we've actually been together here and giving a report, but the event went from 1 or 2 nights to like Cruise Week. Give us an overview of when it starts, and also, as I said before the break, the oldest, the newest car, and what's the farthest distance that someone brought a car to show.
Sure. Well, the events have evolved. When we first started, as you suggested, it was a one-day show with a dance at night, and then it went to 2 days, and then it went to 3 days, and then it's gone to 4 days, and then it's gone to 5 days. Last year, we expanded it to 6 days and or nights, and I think we've been very judicious on how we've added different events that we think are consistent with who we are and what we want to do. One of our more popular events is on Wednesday night. We do a tour of the nursing and assisted living home, and we even went by the Central Nebraska Veterans Home. They had this year we had a gentleman with a counter, and we had 203 vehicles participating in that. We had another gentleman drive the route with his vehicle, and he said with his odometer, it was just a hair over 24 miles, and a lot of fun, 203 cars. Took about an hour and a half to run that route. And then we met at the Senior Center for Ice Cream Sundays. So that was great. And a lot of our events have just been outstanding. Last night we had the Classic and Collectible Car Auction at the fairgrounds. That was a record event. They had, I want to say, 75 vehicles that ran through the ring. High-quality vehicles, a lot of them, and good attendance. So that was enjoyed. So, that's how we got to where we are. Today we have our show and shine downtown. Then we have our parade at 5 o'clock, which goes from Railroad Street up towards Good Samaritan Hospital. That is a popular event. Then when that's over, we have a burnout contest up at Graham Tire. That's another popular event. And then this evening, there's races at Kearney Raceway, which is the only NHRA drag strip in the state of Nebraska. So that'll be fun. And then tomorrow, again, they have races, weather permitting, at Kearney Raceway. And then we'll have a barbecue that benefits the UNK wrestling team, as well as a small show and shine with the classic car collection. So that's our events, Bobby, and I'll let Jerry talk to you about the oldest and newest cars here.
That's terrific. You mentioned racing, Brad, and thank you, Brad Kernick. I'm holding in my hand, for all of you Watch Bobby Live folks, you can see this. This is an aluminum plate, a Central Nebraska Auto Club. It's really neat. It was a gift to me from you folks, and Jerry, you may remember giving this to me. On the back side, I've actually posted a picture of a race car there. It belonged to and belongs to, if he still has this car, Ethan Kinney. That's Paul Kinney's son, with Kappa Ethanol. And the number of it is 30 on the side, and it's got, it's a shell of a car because it's one that you drive on the round track, but it has a huge roll cage in it, and it was quite an honor and quite a lot of fun. And then, of course, Jerry, as you remember, you and your beautiful wife picked me up at the hotel when I came out there for that Kappa Ethanol event. And we ended up at your house until 11 p.m. that night. You remember that?
I remember that just like it was yesterday. We drove my 64 Impala. That's what we did. That's what we did. But back to your other question, I seen about a 1929 or 30 Model T pickup truck come driving in. Our buddy Heath drove it in. It was his dad. His dad, Kent, has passed away a couple years ago. But anyway, and then we've got new Mustang here from the Ford people up on the hill. So we have got everything from soup to nuts. I have seen everything, and they're still coming in. I can still see them coming down Highway 30.
We got a new Hellcat here too, Bobby, which is pretty impressive.
Well, those cars, and I think, and when I think of that event, I wish I was there with you right now. When I think of those events, whether it's in Kearney or right here in Daytona, in Pensacola, or in Daytona, or in Woodward Avenue, Dream Cruise that I've been in Detroit, which was a huge event, as you're all aware. I think about the young people. I mean, we who love cars like to show our wares and look at other cars and those sorts of things. But what is so really neat is that the sharing of the event with young people, and just think of the influence. And I remember seeing a car when I was growing up, a 50 model Mercury Customized was, I have to have one of these. And my father did buy me one. But I just wonder who I would be in that crowd of 6, 8, 10-year-olds that say, well, when I grow up, I'm going to have one of those. The memory, the nostalgia of such events, not to mention now, and for those of you who are tuned in across the nation, thank you for your patience. You feel free to call. Hannah will take your calls, and because these two gentlemen have to get back to work, if you can call what they're doing work today. But the event that's going on, who benefits? Don't you raise money for charities?
Yes, we do, Bobby. We normally give about 20 different charities, from the Red Cross to the local police department to the the Salvation Army, the United Way, Jubilee Center. There's about 20 on that list we give to every year, and usually to the tune of about $8,000 to $9,000 a year. We give it away. Said, thank you. Here it is.
Well, that's a part of the automotive industry, aftermarket and new, for that matter, just a part of the transportation industry that helps others. And at the same time, as I said, going back to when I was a younger person and I went to car shows, and it's been a while since I've been to a car show, but I'm going to remedy that. The challenge with me is that on Saturday morning, I'm in the studio here, and most Cars and Coffee and those kind of events are on Saturday morning. So I've missed out on some of them. One of the things that I will say about classic cars, and you mentioned, Jerry, that classic cars, that the 29 or a model year, that vehicle, a lot of folks who have cars are not sure whether the value of their cars, of what it might be, or whether it's covered or not. And you may or may not know that one of our partners is Grundy Insurance. And Grundy Car Insurance they started this, actually, James Grundy, the agreed value. So, and Jerry, do you still have that the Ford pickup truck?
I do. I have 4 of those cards with agreed value insurance on it. I do.
Well,
Yes, I do.
What's important about that is that you and the insurance provider, whether it's Grundy or not, and it has to be if it's agreed value, you agree to the value of that automobile, and then you can review every year if you've added something to the vehicle that would increase its value. For example, this year, I just finished a 2-month project to update the air conditioning system in my 911 Porsche 1980 model of VSOC, which is one of 406. And so the air conditioner in it works 30 to 40% better than it did at the factory. Of course, in the 80, the Germans didn't put many air conditioners in cars, so it wasn't a great system ever anyway. But I just find it so interesting that how the old is new and new is old, and it all melds together. But so I want to thank Jerry, you and Brad. I thank you for sharing what's going on there in Kearney with all of our Car Clinic listeners across the nation and the globe, really, at Watch Bobby Live. And also hats off to Kearney for the recovery and the ongoing process. I know it will be from that 100-year flood that you had a couple of weeks ago.
Bobby, we thank you very much. But on that same note, I put power steering in that Ford pickup this last winter, electric, like we took it out of a Saturn Vue. So that's a heck of an addition if you've never seen that done.
Well, you know what? That's the first time see, I learn something every time I come to the radio here, because I would have never even thought about that. An older vehicle, what is that, like a 50s or 60s?
It's a 1950 F3 with too big of tires on it, and I'm getting too old to turn it. So I had to do something.
Henry Ford would love you, Jerry. Henry Ford, hey, folks, this is kind of an interesting tidbit, and then we'll move on. But here's interesting: the Model T came out before the Model A. Model T was the first Ford ever. And the reason for that is that there were so many iterations of models of Fords that Henry Ford says, no, this doesn't work. And he would ask for like a transmission to be designed, and someone like Jerry and you, Brad, or your associates there would go off and make one and bring it back. By the time you brought it back, which in the early 1900s, that was no easy chore to cast the transmission and make the gears and all that. He said, no, I got a better idea. I want to change it. And so his first car, instead of a Model A, which it should have been, chronologically, was a Model T. And I find that very, very interesting. And so and then now here you have, a 60s Ford with electric steering. I don't know if Henry Ford would be proud of you or he would say that's sacrilege.
He'd probably say, "What kind of an idiot are you?"
Hey, gentlemen, I had a great time. I hope that everybody tuned in has, and I thank you for your time, and I'll leave you to having a fun event for the rest of the time. Hats off to you, and love to everybody there and all the great people that have driven to Kearney, Nebraska today for the great show.
Bobby, thank you very much, and there's an invitation. You're welcome here in Kearney anytime.
I will take you up on that when time permits. Thank you so much again. And folks, a hard break there. I'm going to come back and take your calls at 888-227-2546. Don't touch that dial. Good morning, Car Clinic listeners nationwide. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 27 years now, and been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for 48 years. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and I'd be honored if you'd vote for my service shop again for Best of the Coast. Go to nweekly.net. Look for the Best of the Coast voting. Click Services. Scroll to the 4th and 5th from the bottom. Then key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. 4 simple steps. nweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, 4th or 5th, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Bobby Likis for Best Oil Change. I really appreciate your vote of confidence.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but morning's knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Well, I'm going to bring you back from central Nebraska, Kearney, to the center of the automotive universe right here in Car Clinic Studios. Our studios are really way cool. They're designed by us, built by Acoustic Systems in Austin, Texas. And our studio is located within a 15,000 square foot automotive service shop. So 50 or 60 hours a week, for those of you who are not familiar with this program, Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're celebrating our 28th year on air, and we're celebrating our 48th year operating Bobby Likis Car Clinic service pre-repair. And over the years, the automobiles have changed dramatically. And just this week, I got a note from friends, and this one gentleman, Brad Warner, who is a dear friend of mine and was the district manager for Bosch. Our service shop was the first authorized Bosch service center, and still is the only Bosch service center within about a 100-mile radius of Pensacola. But ours was the first Bosch service center in the state of Florida in 1986. And so we've enjoyed a 35-plus year run with being an authorized Bosch service center. And I've been to Oak Park, Illinois for schooling there for Bosch. And at that time, in the mid-'80s, Bosch manufactured and produced and supplied to the automotive industry, this is both aftermarket and OEMs, 75% of all fuel-injected parts in the world. And it's a huge organization. I don't know how many billions of dollars, 60, 70, 80, 90, who knows, a year, that company. They're a 4-day operation, no stocks there in Germany. And they have parts in distributions in 140 countries. I didn't even know there were at one time 140 countries. But I say all that to say that as I've seen the evolution of automobiles and just like Jerry Erickson from Kearney just said, he's got this 60s old truck, which I didn't mean to say old, Jerry, but it is aged truck that he's restored. And he had the audacity to put electric power steering on it. But you know, when you think about power steering, I think about, at Ford's, I think about the old slave cylinder that ran across the underside. And folks, power steering on your car, it's not really power steering, it's power assist. And I say it's power assist because it has to have an input from you before the system will work. And I promise I won't go into technical, except that you have to nudge to the left or nudge to the right via your steering wheel. So you have to put a little pressure on the steering wheel to the left or right in order for the power steering assist to recognize you want to go right or left, and then it comes online and helps you. And what is really fascinating to me is that we can create a power steering electrically and using an electric motor. It still has to have the assist. I mean, if it didn't, the car would steer left or right by itself, I mean, when you didn't want it to. So it has to have some input from the driver. And to that end, what was really strange is that we had a Lexus, and we're the de facto Lexus service center in Pensacola because there's not a dealer here. And we were working on a lot of Lexus. So we were aligning a Lexus one day and working on this vehicle. And we had it in shop mode. And by putting this car in shop mode, it means that you couldn't drive the vehicle. So while we had our Lexus in the shop mode, you could take the steering wheel. This is with the car in the sitting still. Take the steering wheel and spin it just like you would a top. And the steering wheel was not connected to the vehicle. Now, that's scary because I said, then those wheels started clicking in my mind. Well, gosh, what if the steering wheel disconnects while you're driving the car? I mean, that is unbelievable. If we can disconnect the steering wheel from the vehicle in the shop, what's to keep it from doing the same thing if that system goes awry? But then I realized that the system has to have power, or what if a dead battery? It has to have power to disengage, because it's like a switch. You know, a switch on your wall can be an off and on switch, which means you click it up, it's off, you click it down. A push button switch, like a horn button or a doorbell, that's called a momentary switch. And it only works when you hold it in. If you turn it loose, it's open circuit. So that's why you ding when you push it and you let off of it, and then it gives you the ding dong or whatever the bell rings, because there's a spring that does the second half of the ringing. But anyway, the bottom line is, I think it's very interesting, the evolution of cars. And last week I mentioned, and I kept this article because it's the new technology, and it's the TJI. And if you say, what is TJI? It's turbulent jet ignition, and it's used in Formula One race cars, and it's a reinvention of the spark to fire the air-fuel mixture within the cylinder, which is the most sophisticated, hard to do correctly and efficiently, and within emissions item of any automobile. That's the most difficult challenge that an ICE, internal combustion engine, has, is to mix the fuel and air and atomize the fuel and air, compress it, and get it to the most compressed, highest pressurized point, and then light the fire immediately. Even faster than you could say immediately, of course, nanosecond. And the bigger the fire you could light, then the more of that fuel gets burned, and the more it is turned into energy that drives the piston that pushes the wheels around. That's really what it's all about. So those are all things that I think are very interesting with automobiles. We have a couple of calls, and I'm going to take them. I see that Joel from California is on the line, and then I see Jim from Michigan is also there. So let's go to, in chronological order with the calls. We'll go to Jim, and also you can still get plenty of time to call in this hour at 888-227-2546. And then I talked about the turbulent jet ignition system. I will share with you information about why spark plugs need to be periodically replaced, courtesy of our friends at the Car Care Council, after this call. But first, Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Connect. Thanks for holding.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Bobby. And I want to talk different ideas about electric cars and what people's conception is to when we're going to get the battery where it's in competition in price with a gas-driven car. The latest information I have on that, it's going to be maybe another 6 years. Now, to me, that's an important thing, because if people are not going to keep their car for a long time, pass it on to somebody else, that somebody else is going to want to be able to afford a battery. And everybody doesn't have the same income as the next person, as we well know.
Well, I agree. I don't know where the 6 years comes from, but according to And it's hard to say, Jim, exactly. Technology moves at the speed of light. There's no question, and technology will prevail. Whether folks want self-driving cars, and we don't need to go there, but the bottom line is technology is a wonderful thing. It's not what technology can do, it's what we do with technology and how we use it for the betterment of our lives. And I can tell you that the cars of today and the safety of the automobiles today is tenfold better than it was years ago. And it is directly related to the technology that drives the industry. But interestingly enough, and then I'm going to turn the mic back to you, interestingly enough, what do you think the oil industry, and I'm not asking this question, I'm just putting it out there in thoughts. What's the oil industry going to do if the EV cars prevail? That's a hell of a question because there's a lot of from political to military, like Hormuz. Lord, we hear about the Straits of Hormuz and all that Iranian discord that's going on right now. What's that all about? It's about the power. It's about petroleum. And so when you think about that, what if we didn't have petroleum? What if we had all EV cars, and we had nuclear power plants that produce the power, and we use the sun harness? So we've only begun. What was it years ago when somebody said that it was the patent office, and someone made the statement, well, and I don't know what year this was, before I was born probably, but maybe not. It said, okay, nothing else can be invented because everything's been invented. Anyway, back to you.
Okay, Bobby, I really feel that the price of cars is one of the material things that people want. For example, currently the Tesla car can do, and their Model S is about 60 or 70,000, depending on how you equip it.
Okay.
And that's out of the range of some people starting out to learn to drive and to support a family. You've got to make cars somewhere in the immediate range of everybody. Yeah, if somebody can afford $1 million car, that's fine. That's their business. They can have it. But the one thing that's going to increase the price of sales, they limited it to 200,000, and then no more government knockoff on the car. The new proposition being forwarded and not approved as yet is to be giving car companies 6 years to sell cars at a reduced rate rather than a limit of 200,000. What an event to me that would be, because that's going to cause people to have more interest in electric cars.
I would agree. And to be clear, folks, what Jim is referring to is that the $7,500 tax credit that comes with buying an EV, and but the government as a subsidy for technology. And for those of you who say, oh, the government subsidizes everything, that is not the case. Well, the government subsidized the first airmail stamp. I mean, who's gonna? It was 6 cents, but who's gonna? So what starts out as a government subsidy, and what starts out is like at MIT, when you've got so many intelligent or Georgia Tech. You've got so much going on in universities and colleges that have to do with experimentation and the retail market ultimately, just like space. And we could do a show on everything that NASA has brought to us that we use in every day. So for those who might say and condemn the subsidies, you need to really do your homework and see how many of those new technologies that were partially subsidized or with grant money have made our lives better. And so Jim, I agree with you that as we go forward, when you start to make anything in mass, you reduce the cost of that. And I know, and I don't have time to cite specifics, but I know that I had an occasion to have dinner with executives at Bosch years ago, and one black box was $2,600. And I said, you mean tell me you're gonna someone's gonna add $2,600? He said, no, Bobby. He said, by the time we make 5 million of them, it'll be $260 instead of $2,600. So and so that shows you that that I was short thinking that night, and it's great to be around folks who are in the business and understand that what you do today has ramifications, both good and bad, but hopefully good. Anyway, Jim, I appreciate nice talking with you today.
My pleasure as well, as always.
Thank you. So let's go from Michigan to California. Joel is there. So Joel, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hi, thank you, Bobby, for taking my call, man.
I appreciate you as well. What can I do for you?
Well, I have a 2003 Ford Ranger, and I'm having trouble with the charging system, and I've had the alternator changed, and what's weird is it'll test great on the bench, but it'll work for a while at like a 12.8 rate, which is low, I think.
Yeah, it is low. Yeah.
What happens when it starts discharging or not charging, the oil pressure gauge goes up a little higher, the temp gauge goes up higher, and then the volt gauge drops down a little bit. And I've checked all the wiring, the connections, and I took the alternator off again for a third time, had a bench tested.
Well, wait.
Okay.
And Joel, let me say this, okay? In the interest of time, because we're at the end of this hour, you can feel free to call back the next hour. But and so I'm going to ask you to do that because there's some there's some issues here. Number one, with the methodology that you're using, that and there's a reason that you haven't found this. And one of the reasons is that you're taking the component that you think is guilty off the automobile and bench testing that component, which doesn't prove anything. And so that's not the way that you test an alternator system. It's the way you would test it if you were a reman company and you wanted to make sure that it would work because you had the process to do it. But when you have a problem with an automobile, you don't. It's like having a problem with your body. You don't take the piece off your body and say, "Oh, that works," because that won't work. You have to test. Right. You have to test those things within the car itself and on the car itself. But feel free to call back the next hour. And folks, there's a lot more information I've got, like spark plugs. Why would you periodically need to change them? I'll tell you next hour. Don't touch that dial.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, you never want to get surprised by a dead battery. A vehicle's original battery generally lasts about 3 to 5 years, but many fail long before then. Next time you're in for an oil service, have the technician test your battery. Better now than too late. Today's vehicles have start-stop systems, navigation, radio amplifiers, electric fuel pumps, 25 or more onboard computer modules, and serious electronic controls that depend on a strong, fully charged battery. Make sure the car you're driving has a healthy battery. Make yourself a note. Go to autobatteries.com and see for yourself how a battery can keep you safely driving down the road or put you on the side, just like that. At autobatteries.com, you'll see battery technology, battery testing, how to choose the battery, how to jumpstart your battery, and more about AGM batteries, my choice. I'm not here to make you a battery expert, rather to help you better understand why a reliable battery is essential for your road trips. Go to autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with. And by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition Le Muls. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, booth parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark.
Yeah,
Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you to this hour broadcast. We still have Joel that held over from California for the last hour. So after the break, we're going to go right directly to him. And then I see that Steve's calling from Oregon. So I'll invite you to call at 888 Car Clinic if you have a car question. We'll see if we can work through some of, I'll share my information that I have in my 48 years of knowledge and my education and years of experience in solving issues. And that's really what we do every day. You know, it's a cause and effect. You know, what caused it, what effect it had, and what do you have to do to, you know, to repair whatever's wrong. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this hour by Motorcraft, high-quality vehicle-specific parts for Ford and Lincoln vehicles. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. You can learn more at motorcraft.com. And Motorcraft brand has been around many, many years. I've used those. I used to race Fords many years ago and grew up in the Ford family. I say the Ford family. A lot of my friends ran Chevrolets, and I used to tell them, anybody can make a Chevrolet run fast. It takes real talent to make a Ford go. This is years ago, folks. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546 when I come back. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element UltraStat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The UltraStat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The UltraStat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad UltraStat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. We recently had an 09 Honda Pilot come into the shop with 169,000 miles on the odometer. The vehicle owner said the cabin was starting to smell like coolant, and he was concerned. Upon closer inspection, we found a heater core leak. Choices were to keep the vehicle and make a repair, which at best is half a day's labor plus parts, or sell the vehicle and buy a different used car that could have its own set of problems. We presented a third option, K-Seal. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. Well, I don't just talk about it, we actually use the product in our service shop. It's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which has the tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Our customer went with K-Seal, and 1 month later, no more leak. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And for those of you who have just tuned in, a hearty welcome. I hope that you had a great week and you're taking care of your automobile. And if you have any questions, I'm your personal car consultant. So Hannah will take your call and put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air. 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Lots of calls, so we're going to get right into it. And we're talking with Joel. Joel called last hour, but we didn't have time to discuss. So Joel, as I understand, as a quick recap, you've got an 03 Ford Ranger, a charging system. You've had the alternator off more than once and taken it in, and the alternator tests well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
yes.
For your information, you cannot test the charging system with the charging system apart. So the fact that the alternator works well on the bench does nothing because it doesn't live on the bench. It lives in your car, and it's connected to the wiring in your car. So you could have a perfect automobile, a perfect battery. No, not perfect. You could have a healthy car, a healthy battery, a healthy alternator, and have a simple ground wire, which is typical of a Ford product, by the way, and a typical, and you can have a ground wire, and you could test all the components until you're blue in the face, but until you test the vehicle in its operative mode with everything intact, then only can you check for parasitic draw and load up the alternator system and those sorts of things. And let me simplify it for you.
Okay.
You turn the headlights on, a simple voltmeter, and it doesn't have to be a DVOM, although with today's sophisticated cars, you better use a digital volt-ohm meter versus other, because you could damage electronic circuits in the computer. But having said that, any battery voltmeter will do this. And this is the most simple way you can check for the output of an alternator in place on the car. What you do is you turn on the air conditioner, blower speed maximum, you turn the headlights on high beam, you turn the defroster on, and if it has a rear window defogger, defroster, you turn that grid on as well, turn the radio on, although that's not much of a draw, and let's see what else. You could even leave the door open until the dome light's on. So for all practical purposes, you've got all the electronics in place. Then you crank the engine and check the battery voltage, and you should maintain and sustain 13 volts at some 1500 plus RPM, which proves that the alternator has the power to sustain the battery. See, alternators are not meant to charge batteries. They're meant to maintain the charge in a battery. And so if you have, for instance, if you have a brand new automobile that's totally healthy, and you put a bad battery in it, and you drive from, California, if you drive up the coast for 300 miles, you would damage the alternator, because the alternator is not meant to sustain the car and charge the battery. It will be overworked, and you'll shorten the life of the alternator. It's called duty cycle. And I'll simplify that. I can press 10 pounds 100 times. I can press 100 pounds 10 times. You see the difference there? So an alternator,
Yeah.
it puts out 100 amps, but it's max 100 amps. But you do that for over 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes, you destroy the longevity or shorten the longevity of the battery of the charging unit. Now back to you. Any questions?
No, that pretty much covers it. Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, load up the car, put a voltmeter on the battery, and if it will not hold 13.1 or 13.2 volts at 1500, 2000 RPM with the whole car loaded up. This is with a charged battery now. And let me just share this with you with regard to batteries, and then we'll move on because the phones are jammed. On my car, which is a classic Porsche, I use a device it's made by Optima, a Clarios company, Clarios. Clarios, 1 in 3 cars in the world have Clarios batteries, just for you to know. I use an Optima Digital 400 charger and battery maintainer. And as we speak, because you called last hour and you held through the break, and I went out and took a break, I went by my Porsche and pushed a neat little illumination button so that the gauge would light up on the Optima Digital 400. My voltage on my car, and it's in the maintainer mode, right now is 13.6, and the charge rate is 0.01 amp, which means it's not even charging. It's just kind of like, I got your back here, I got you charged up. The Optima Digital 400 says, I've got you charged up, battery, but just in case, I'll ping you. And so that system is a digital charger, and it will ping the battery. It monitors the battery, but it's in the maintainer mode. It is the neatest device, and I can assure you, if we had to go out and start my car, which I haven't cranked that car in, 2 months now. I crank it about every 3 months, and I run it for no less than 30 minutes. And I will tell you, I can reach through the window, and that battery will be hot and ready to go because I use the Digital 400 Optima maintainer. So for those of you who drive very few miles, and I don't drive this car because it's a show and tell car, and it's my really, I love it. I really do. I really enjoy it. So that's what I would recommend to sustain the automobile. And so, Joel, you may not even have an issue with the charging system. You could just be the fact you don't drive it that often, and it kind of got run down, and now it's having a challenge to get back up to par. So I appreciate your call. Check that voltage output and see if it's 13 plus volts. And if it's anything less than 13, anywhere in the 12s, you've got a problem with the charging system or with the wiring of the car. And I appreciate your call from California. Let me hear back from you soon, okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. Let's go now to Oregon and take the second call lined up. Steve, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Hi, Bobby. How are you this morning?
I'm terrific. Thanks for asking.
I got a couple of questions here about the rear brakes on my Ford Transit van. This thing is just chewing through rear brakes, and I've had 2 brake jobs in 49,000 miles. So every 4th oil change, I have to spend $600 on a brake job.
Are you the primary driver?
Yes, sir.
And what's this Transit used for?
Well, basically, I haul my German Shepherd around with it. I'm a contractor, but I just have a tool bag and very light. It's a lightly used van.
Okay, and that Transit, I know it's a 15 model. Is it a drum rear or disc all the way around?
It's disc all the way around. And they're telling me the disc cannot be turned; they have to be replaced.
Right. Well, manufacturers are using, and Mercedes did this years ago. Mercedes used for many years a soft abrasive pad, and the soft pad would wear, and the fact that it was abrasive, and the abrasiveness of a pad has to do with the coefficient of friction. So if you have an abrasive pad, it doesn't take a lot of pedal effort to really slow the car. versus if you've got a slick pad, or like oiled pad, that's an example. If you got an oily pad, which you wouldn't do, you hit the brakes and you could mash as hard as you could and it still wouldn't stop the car. So that's the opposite of there's your friction coefficient correlation. So the point is this: that's not what's wrong with your vehicle. But that's why as I imagine Ford's doing the same thing. Number one, 70% of the stopping for your Transit, like in all cars, is done with the front brakes. So the rear brakes ought to be along for the ride. They shouldn't be working that hard, which tells me there's either a problem with the front brakes or there's a problem with the pressure differential going to the rear brakes. Now let me ask you this. When the car was new, if you go back 50,000 miles, or ever how many miles, I don't know. When the car was new, the pedal effort, has it always been like any other car, plus or minus, a few degrees that you've owned?
Yeah, it's been comfortable. It's been.
Okay.
I haven't
All right.
noticed anything. I'm really in tune to my vehicle, so I can tell when something doesn't feel right.
Sure. Okay. I got it. And then one more question, and I've got a break coming up, so folks don't go away. Here's the bottom line. So we got a car that is wearing the rear brakes. You're the driver. You don't use the parking brake and leave it on, because that would cause the same issue, and probably wouldn't wear both brakes. So what is common to the rear brakes? There's a differential valve, proportioning valve, that adjust the pressure of the rear brakes relevant to the front brakes. And to me, that's the issue with your vehicle, the proportioning valve. But stay tuned, I got one more question for you, and then we're going to go to Blaine and to James and your calls at 888 Car Clinic when I come back. In the service bay this week, a longtime customer's 2000 Ford Taurus. He'd been complaining about a humming noise at highway speeds and grinding when he stopped. With 55,000 miles on the odometer, the driver's had the vehicle since new and never had any work done. No brakes, no suspension. A thorough inspection revealed a number of potential problems: a failing left front wheel bearing, worn-out rear brake pads and rotors, and the beginnings of a leaking brake caliper. Our choice to solve these problems? Motorcraft. Brake systems and suspension repair represent serious work you want done right the first time. Choosing quality parts is critical to ensuring vehicle reliability and longevity. Motorcraft quality brake and suspension parts are engineered for Ford and Lincoln vehicles. From the hub to the rotor, calipers, brake pads, and wheel bearings, Motorcraft quality parts provide you with the stopping power and stability needed for your vehicle. Learn more about Motorcraft brake and suspension parts at motorcraft.com. That's motorcraft.com. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. We recently performed a major service on a 1996 F-150. The vehicle had just under 200,000 miles on it. In addition to fluids and filters, we changed the spark plugs and boots, performed a cooling system flush, and replaced the thermostat, hoses, and drive belts. After a few weeks, the owner noticed a small leak coming from the area where the transmission bolted onto the block. Using a pressure tester, we found that coolant was seeping from one of the freeze plugs at the rear of the engine. This repair would require several hours of labor and another few days or so in the shop. Given the truck's age and the fact it was just in the shop for service, we suggested K-Seal, a one-step permanent multi-purpose system for coolant leak repair that won't clog radiators or heater cores. K-Seal stops leaks and can also prevent future leaks. After driving the truck for a week, the owner called and let us know the leak had stopped. K-Seal's available at fine retailers everywhere, like Napa Auto Parts. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance. When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So for those of you on hold, just stay there. I'm coming to you soon. So Steve, we're talking about brakes on your Ford Transit. Let me ask this question. You, I presume, still have the original front brake pads, or have they been replaced?
No, they're all original up there.
Okay.
And they're hardly used. And they actually told me, because I kind of I was balking on the second brake job, and they were explaining that Ford designed this thing to have more brake power in the back for handling reasons. Under load, I guess, is what they're telling me. And so I asked them, I said, well, is there a way to adjust that? Because this is crazy. $600 every fourth oil change is, to me, crazy. I've never put brakes on a car before 65,000 miles in the front of, any brakes.
So who told you that Ford designed the rear brakes to outperform the front brakes on the Transit?
Ford did.
Well, I disagree with that. And number one, if that is the case, that tells me that in wet weather, the rear brakes are going to do more work because the car doesn't know, the vehicle doesn't know how much of a load is in it.
Right. I understand
now,
that, yeah.
Now, there are, that statement is not quite 100% accurate, true, because there are some vehicles that have load leveling, measuring arms, and as the load is increased, the brake pressure to the rear of the vehicle is increased. Those are very rare vehicles, but some cars apply brakes in a different fashion. I don't know that the Transit has this adjustable rear brake pressure. Most cars, and I say most, almost all cars use a proportioning valve, and that proportioning valve applies brakes at like 500 psi to the rear before the front, or simultaneously, so that the rears do assist the front, because the front stops 70% of the now. Just like this, the front pad, Steve, average, and this is an average, the average thickness of a brake pad on the front is 400 thousandths. And you can, there's a specification for every car, tells you what and that way when a car comes in for like our digital inspection, we measure it, and if there's 200, and if the spec says 420 thousandths and we've got 200 thousandths, we tell the owner you're 50% worn on the brakes. Just like the tread of a new tire can be 9/32, which is a pretty big, deep tread. But the wear band is 2/32, and you should not replace the tire at 3/32 because there are too many miles left in it. So 2/32. Having said all of that, and if you're telling me that the rear brakes are worn out and they're evenly and wearing evenly, then there's two things that I would do. I would do research on the proportioning valve for your vehicle, and it will have one. It may be incorporated in the ABS system, or it may be a separate block. And this is a block is where the front and rear lines are connected to the master cylinder after the ABS unit. In other words, someone needs to do some research, because you'd be hard-pressed to make me believe, and I'm with you 100%, that rear brakes, I have never seen a car in my 48 years wear the rear brakes out before the front brakes. Never. And I never use the word never, but it doesn't make sense for that to happen. So
Perhaps do you use the parking brake ever?
No, I never use it.
Most people don't. Yeah, okay. So it's possible, and I don't even think you've got a caliper issue here, because if you did, you wouldn't have the same issue with both left and right calipers. So as I run through the regions of my experience in my mind, I think that you need to look into that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Jonathan to put you back on hold. I want you to give Hannah your telephone number, your email address, and I will, and over the next time or so, as time permits, do research, and I will research this offline because I want to know what's up as well. So thank you, Steve, from Oregon.
Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. And so, Jonathan, let's put him back on hold. And then let's go to James, and then Blaine's coming up. And, folks, 888-227-2546. I want to remind you, Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Berryman Products and their B33 engine degreaser, which features a proprietary blend of high-performance detergents and emulsifiers. Berryman B33 engine degreaser easily penetrates road grime and dirt and grease and oil, all that stuff you don't want on your car. You can learn more at berrymanproducts.com. It's a great product. I use all of their products. And for more information and to see more applications, go to berrymanproducts.com. James, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Bobby. How's it going today?
Really, really terrific. I'm perplexed a little bit because, how many cars have you owned, and how many rear brakes have you ever replaced as compared to front brake pads? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
That does not. There's something not right there.
No, not right. Anyway, let's talk about yours.
Yes, I wanted to let you know I'm the person who called about a month ago pertaining to using the ethanol-free 89-octane gas in my 2005 Chevy Astro.
3 miles.
And you took me up a challenge, and I took your challenge and to try the medium-grade 89.
Okay.
And I'm here to give you a call pertaining to what the difference is.
Oh, okay, and was it a 3 mile per gallon issue?
It was. You just hit it on the head. I'm talking 3 to 4 miles was the only difference.
Yes.
I thought it might be like 15 to 20 miles of a bit variance, but it wasn't. It wasn't worth mentioning, basically. It's like only 3 to 4 miles, and yes, the 10% ethanol dead went out on the 3 to 4 mile part, but the difference between the 3 to 4 mile difference is that with the ethanol 10 and with the ethanol free, I still get knocking with the ethanol 10% and no knocking on my vehicle with the ethanol free. That's the only difference.
And you got an 05 Chevrolet, and you say that the pinging that you... Okay, so let's take one thing at a time, because for clarification, because you and I are pretty much on the same page, but there are a lot of people out there that aren't. You had called me, and at the time were paying the exorbitant price of straight E0, which is straight gasoline with no ethanol, for the reason of gas mileage, I thought it was.
Correct. Well, it wasn't ethanol 0. It's ethanol the same, ethanol 89. But I was talking about ethanol-free 89 compared to the 10% ethanol 89.
Okay, to my recollection, you were using 87 octane ethanol.
Right, ethanol-free 89.
No,
and I have no knocking whatsoever.
Right. But you were using before, not now, but you were using before 87 octane. The low octane E10, and you were using straight gasoline, which is 89 octane.
First time was I was using the 87.
Yeah, right. So you were
right. So I went up a notch. You told me to try the 89.
Okay. All right. Now we're on the same page. Okay. And so where are we?
So like I said, it was only a 3 to 4 mile difference of that 10% ethanol and the ethanol free. But the difference that I have the difference of was with the ethanol free, I had no knocking on my vehicle to where the 10% still gave me a little bit of a knocking sound.
Okay. Got it.
It was just, I wanted to ask if you could you ask your callers? I'm still curious about this question. Could you ask your callers before they ask their questions, what type of gas do they use in their tanks? Because I still see people filling up gas with regular gasoline. That was the main purpose I was calling you about. How many people still just go to the pump and get regular gasoline just to save money? That was the main question when I first asked you.
So what are you using now?
I'm still sticking with my ethanol-free.
Okay, and so I'm not clear. Why are you doing that?
Because probably in my own mindset that my van's working with ethanol-free. But now understand, I have an old vehicle. I have a 2005. I wouldn't dare try to do this on a BMW or something like that. Now, if you get a vehicle that's like 2010 and below, I would like your callers to find out if this is going to work or not, if it will help clear out their pistons or whatever you're going to have in your old vehicles. But I have no problems with the ethanol-free 89 octane gas.
Well, do you have problems with 89
But that 10%
ethanol?
ethanol, I still do.
With 89 octane ethanol?
Correct.
And what do you hear?
I mean, slight. After I use the gas, about 3/4 of using the gas, I still hear that little sound. It's like when you're at a stop sign or whatever. It doesn't matter. You can still hear something different.
James, I believe you believe that. I do not believe that to be a fact, because the piezo speakers, the knock sensors that are in your engine, are tuned in to the frequency within the cylinder head, and they are electronically listening for any ping, and they instantly reduce the timing long before any audible ping ever occurs to the human ear. I will tell you that because that is a fact. I mean, 20 pounds air pressure, 20 psi. Hot, cold, it will change, but the bottom line is, I believe that you believe that, but I do not believe that to be a fact, because I believe this. I believe if you gave me your 05 Chevrolet and your credit card with an empty tank and you let me go fill it, and you didn't know what was in it, I challenge you to tell me the difference in the way it performs.
I have to admit, you could win that, because I must be not doing things the way that we're discussing then, because I did, like I said, to try to find out if the gasoline was better or not. But I don't want to ever, like I said, you told your callers to call in, and I'm calling in and giving you my feedback.
I know,
That's all I'm doing.
I got you. I'm with you. I just know that the mind's so powerful. So what I want you to do is, when your car gets low on fuel, give your credit card to somebody else and say, go fill this up with either or, and don't tell me which one it is. Try that. Call me back. Got to go. Good morning, Car Clinic listeners nationwide. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 27 years now, and been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for 48 years. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and I'd be honored if you'd vote for my service shop again for Best of the Coast. Go to nweekly.net. Look for the Best of the Coast voting. Click Services. Scroll to the 4th and 5th from the bottom. Then key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. 4 simple steps. nweekly.net. Services. Scroll to the bottom, 4th or 5th. Key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Bobby Likis for Best Oil Change. I really appreciate your vote of confidence.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. What a great show. You know, what is really terrific is that I have the opportunity every Saturday to exchange ideas and thoughts and beliefs and facts with you and your automobiles. And I don't know the answers to all the questions, but I do understand and know the technologically designs of automobiles and the mechanical and the thermodynamic and a lot of those through the years, through my racing years and in the 48 years in the business. And I mentioned earlier, it's fun for me. It's challenging, and that only just keeps me young and full of vigor, and you know, it's like just like the gentleman, you know, that in his mind he thinks that his car pings with E10 versus with straight E0 gasoline. You know, and his engine has a self-protecting, electronically controlled function. So he needs to do a blind test, and thank you, Jonathan. That's what he needs to do, and I think he's going to go do that. I mentioned earlier in the program the TJI, Turbulent Jet Ignition, and that's a fancy word for spark plug that's not a spark plug. It's a combination, but it's not price point. Now, Formula One cars use that. But your car uses regular spark plugs that need to be periodically replaced. I mean, spark plugs are one of the hardest, and this information I'm going to share with you comes from our partner, the Car Care Council. So, as I said, spark plugs are one of the hardest working parts of your vehicle. They can fire 400 times a minute per cylinder, or 16,000 times a minute on a four-cylinder engine. 16,000 times a minute. According to Rich White, who is the executive director of the Car Care Council, and I quote, "Many vehicle owners delay spark plug repair on their vehicles even after they have failed. This is a mistake since fouled, damaged, or worn out spark plugs can lead to engine damage, reduced fuel efficiency, and poor performance such as misfiring, hard starting, and sluggish acceleration." End quote. I concur. I agree 100% with Rich. So check for the following, and this is what I do every week. Every time I fill my car, which is not every week, but every week. And here are the things that you can check for: poor fuel economy. I know I run my car to a specific point. Normally, I run my car to 0 miles to empty. It still has 1.4 gallons, and so if I'm 1 or 2 miles off, I stop and it's got 2 miles to empty or 2 miles post-empty. I know there's 1.4. It holds 21.4. So if it's 0 miles to empty, it should hold 20 gallons. Because at 0 miles, it has 1.4 gallons. And I do a 2-click and if I guess and I'm over 2 to 4 tenths of a gallon off, then I say I've got a problem or I didn't check it right. And I'm usually, normally, almost always within 3 tenths of a gallon. And that is an anal way to check your MPG. I do it for fun, and I do it to determine how the performance of my car is progressing. There's a lot of things that can lead to poor fuel economy, as the Car Care Council said. In the case of old spark plugs, you waste fuel because your vehicle fails to receive the proper heat-generating spark at the right time. Now, as our last caller said, rattling, pinging, or knocking noises. When spark plugs begin to misfire, you may notice unusual noises from the force of the pistons in the combustion not working correctly. The pistons are traveling at a high velocity, and if the spark plug fires at the wrong time, this could lead to constant rattling, pinging, or knocking sounds. So for you, the Car Care Council recommends that you consult your owner's manual for the proper spark plug replacement intervals. And the council also recommends replacing all the plugs at the same time. Well, that's a no-brainer. And with the same type of spark plug that the vehicle was originally equipped. And a special thanks to the Car Care Council for their continued information, a nonprofit organization that I share with you that will add life to your car and keep your car in your garage and out of mine or your local service shop. Let's go to Nebraska. Blaine, thank you so much for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, I'm back again. So, yeah, we have a 2013 Honda Odyssey.
Okay.
And the driver's manual, what? The driver's manual says for going downhill, you can put it into low and help you slow you down going downhill.
Right. Okay.
So my question is, which is more cost effective? When you come up to a stop sign, put it in to let the engine transmission slow you down, or use a regular braking?
Transmission decel is always superior. I do that all the time. I have paddle shifters in my car, and I'll downshift using my transmission to slow the car for two reasons. One, depending on the speed of the car and the RPM of the engine, when the accelerator pedal is at rest, which means your foot is off the accelerator, and the engine is above 1,500 RPM, which means, let's say you're running 70 miles an hour. You let off the accelerator because you're on an off-ramp. You're going to get off the interstate. And you're running 70 miles an hour. You let off the accelerator. The engine is still turning 2,500 RPM because you're running 75 miles an hour, or 70 or 65, and then it slows down. The fuel is cut. It's called fuel cut. The electronic computer shuts the fuel off. And that's for emissions. Actually, it was designed for race cars, but that's another story. It's very interesting, by the way, but it was designed for race cars. And so when you let off the accelerator and the engine is being pushed by the rear wheels more than 1,500 RPM, that's the threshold, with the accelerator off, it shuts down the fuel. So your gas mileage will, if you've got an instant readout, show you it goes up to 99 miles per gallon. I can influence any automobile by doing that, because it's like money for nothing. You're coasting and you're not using any fuel, but you're covering territory, you're covering ground. Now, at the same time that you're doing that, you're not using the brake pad wear lining to slow the car. You're using the transmission gear and the engine compression. And diesels have a exhaust brake. They actually use I won't get into that, but they actually have a system where when you let off they have a system whereas you use the engine's exhaust and stop it up to keep the engine from freewheeling, and then you let off the gas with the car in gear, and you're trying to drive the engine. Just as regenerative braking, think of an EV, and think of when you go, and this is total EV, no internal combustion engine. Or maybe it could be a hybrid, but nonetheless, you're on the battery power. You're propelling the car, so you're draining juice out of the battery. Well, you let off the accelerator, then now the car is putting juice back in the battery because it's coasting. In fact, I drove a BMW i3 and was aggravated because it was so aggressive in its regenerative. You go in 50 miles an hour and let off the gas, and it's like somebody's dragging you back. It was overkill. And when you step on the brakes, even more so. That's why with EV cars, the brake pads wear forever, because the same motors that drive the wheels using the battery power are generators when the wheels drive the motors and put juice back in the battery. So that's more information than what you could imagine, but all of that's relevant to your very question. So by all means, you can use the transmission to downshift and increase MPG and increase the brake life. Any questions?
Yeah, no. So, well, I had a F-350 Ford with a 7.3 diesel engine, and when I sold it at 100,000 miles, it still had the original brakes. So,
well, you did something right there. Well, you got it, Brian. You got it, Blaine. You're right on. You and I are on the lockstep. Where in Nebraska do you live?
Well, we lived up in the sand hills in Nebraska where the traffic's sparse, and you can slow down ahead of time and not get in anybody's way.
Well, that's another thing too, because in town driving, and I get it's funny to me, ironic, and one of those quirks is I watch other drivers that zoom past me, and the lights already turned yellow a half a block ahead. You know you got to stop, and I say, well, I wonder where that driver thinks he or she is going. And sure enough, they run right up to the stoplight and they step on the brakes. In fact, we have an employee, and I'm not going to mention because Miss Jan wouldn't like it if I did, but we have an employee that everybody, and she takes customers home. She's fabulous. She's been here 21 years, but you don't want to ride with her. And I hope she's not listening. So if anybody, locally, don't tell Jan I said this. But I can tell you what, she'll run up on a red light and you say, oh, is she going to stop? Because I delivered a car the other day and she picked me up and she's bringing me back to the office, and I'm riding with her. And when I got back, the crew said, congratulations, Bobby, you made it back. I said, yes, no. So, yeah, we're all on the same page, I think, here. Maybe Jan will quit Monday, but I won't let her because she's been here too long. Blaine, thank you for your call, always from Nebraska.
Yeah, well, one more comment.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, sure.
Well, I'm 90 years old,
wow.
And my eyes are poor. I can't have a driver's license anymore. So my wife treats me like a dog. She lets me right along.
Well, you still have her and she still has you. So congratulations to both of them. Okay, my friend.
Okay.
Thanks for your call. Okay, let's go to New York. Take a call from Jeff. Jeff, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, Bobby, how are you?
I'm terrific. How about yourself?
Fantastic, buddy.
That gentleman, 90 years old, and his wife is chauffeuring him around. Hey, that's not a bad idea. I chauffeur my wife. She rides in the back. Never mind. Okay.
His wife, I think, is 56.
Well, he is a sport, isn't he?
Anyway,
moving on.
So my 95 F-150 300 6-cylinder.
Okay.
It's a battle axe. Love this thing. But I'll tell you, when I started, and I know they built in the, high-speed warm-up, all that stuff.
Right.
Man, this thing, is there something I can do to knock that down a little bit? It just absolutely goes. You crank it up and it just wants to go full bore. It doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
In fact,
but yes, you can.
I'll start it up.
You can do this. I know what you're talking about, and so that's not to interrupt you, but the idle air controller has it is like a tracheotomy. It's a vacuum leak. It's not a vacuum leak. A vacuum leak says that you're getting false air. It is air that is supplied to the engine that goes around the throttle plate. So the throttle plate is closed or at an idle, which is 500 RPM. So how does it idle at 1500? Well, it has a circumvent. It has a back door. It has another passageway that feeds the engine through the idle air controller, and when the engine reaches, and that's how it adjusts. That's a motor and what have you. So the bottom line is, you could physically reduce the overall size of that port. That would be a fun thing to do. I did that because I modified a Mercedes one time, and it idled so fast the fuel stop would shut it off, and it'd go, oh, oh. It would idle above 1,600 RPM with your foot off the accelerator, so it thought it was in a fuel cut mode, so it would actually surge. It would run up to 1,600, and then the fuel would cut off until the engine would cut off. When it got below 1,200, it would come back on. So it was on and off, on and off. And I caused that because I circumvented some of the emissions. This is back in the 70s. And the timing. So, but anyway, I had to restrict the size of the idle air controller, and so you can do that. Are you familiar with the idle air? Well, okay. So find the port. Now don't fool around with the motor and the pintle. You know where it really adjusts itself, right? Don't fool around with that. Go to the port itself. And and this could be probably, it's probably on the lead side or the outside of the throttle plate. You'll look in the throttle plate, the throttle body, and you'll see a hole, the size of your little finger. That hole is a port that feeds and goes around the throttle plate. You with me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, all you got to do is use JB Well. I mean that's what I would use. I would determine where I wanted to put block this port to adjust this speed cold, and I would use JB Weld, and then you can drill that port out because JB Weld is so powerful that you can drill it out and it wouldn't hurt a thing, and you could tune your engine like you wanted it. You got it?
Got it.
Hey, yeah. Hey, that's a great idea. I'm glad I thought of that. Thanks for your call.
Thank you, Bobby.
Folks, in 2000, actually, no, it's not 2000. Years ago, in fact, I want to share this with you because I mentioned J.B. Well, which is the world's strongest bond. All started out with a gentleman who actually owned in 1969 a truck service garage, and instead of traditional torch welding, he said, I need a cold weld. And he worked with a Texas chemist, and he invented J.B. Weld. And their byline was, don't scrap it, J.B. Weld it. So for this gentleman and for you, go to jbweld.com. And also next week, same time, same station, I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
Productions Incorporated, and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
If your vehicle isn't stopping like it used to, visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a set of BrakeBest Select brake pads and 2 BrakeBest Select rotors, and you'll receive a $25 O'Reilly gift card by mail. Enjoy quiet, safe, worry-free braking. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
If you're working on a repair project around the house or in the garage, forget about ordinary glue. I use JB Weld epoxy products at home, here in my shop, and also in our Car Clinic studio. JB Weld is the brand pros and DIYers have trusted for more than 50 years. JB Weld, world's strongest bond. Pick up your JB Weld at any Home Depot, Lowe's, AutoZone, Walmart, Amazon, and our partner, O'Reilly Auto Parts. For more details, log on to jbweld.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grown.